Okay, it's 1 o'clock, so let's go ahead and get started. So good afternoon, everyone. Hopefully everyone had a good, nice, long, restful weekend. It was really hot, and I think even more hot now that all the fires are going on. So hopefully everyone's staying indoors, staying cool, and staying safe. So how's everyone doing today?
We're good.
We're good.
Me.
Good?
Yeah.
Good? Oh, oh man, you don't have AC. Oh, that's I feel for you, man. That's tough in this weather. But hopefully the weather cools down a little bit. I looked at the forecast, so it's still going to stay hot, but at least it's not going to be 120 degrees. So it'll be hot, but it won't be hell on earth anymore. Okay. So one quick announcement. So we have homework due today. So right before the lecture, someone asked, what's the actual due date? Because on the PDF it said that it's due at 1 p.m., but online it's at 11:59. So all the homeworks are going to be due at 11:59, just because it's all going to be online. And I want to give you guys that flexibility until the end of the day to turn it in, especially since you have to write it down, scan it, upload it, and that takes some time. So the homework's going to be due at 11:59 today, right? And so the plan for today is, we're going to do just a little bit of an aside. So this is not really part of like a traditional engineer economics curriculum, but this is more like this is something that's kind of motivated at the college level. So basically, what we've been seeing over the years at the college is that you guys come up with some really cool products. Either through your senior design or through your participation in clubs and a lot of the student projects here. And a lot of these, what we think would make really cool products that you can actually bring to market. But what we see consistently is that a lot of you guys, even though you have really great ideas and you have all the technical knowledge, you don't really have the business sense or the business knowledge, or just kind of the mindset of what it takes to actually bring a project to market. So what Dean Barua wants to do is she wants to introduce more entrepreneurial thinking, and just that kind of that mindset, introduce that more into the curriculum. So this is kind of an aside, which there's no problems, there's no equations that I can ask you from today, but it's more just something for you guys to help you guys think more like an entrepreneur, what that means exactly, so that you can take your ideas, which you guys have really great ideas, and maybe bring that to market, make your own company, or introduce that to a company as a new product. So today's kind of an aside. It's not directly related to the curriculum, but it's something that will hopefully enrich your experience as a student here even more, and maybe lead to other opportunities in the future. Okay. And so and I have to give some credit where credit's due. So the slides that I'm showing you today and the activity we're going to be doing today, they're not from my own creation, so they're provided from the business school. So as part of this kind of initiative, Dean Barua has also partnered with the business school, and we actually have one of the business professors that's working closely together with our college, and his name is Dr. Atul Tekchandani. So he's the one that kind of provided the slides and provided the activities that we're going to do today. So his contact information will be at the end. So if the information that we cover today is interesting to you and you want to learn more, I would definitely reach out to him, and he's definitely the expert on that. So I'm kind of just relaying the message. So last year I had him actually give this workshop, but he's because he's kind of responsible for the entire ECS college, and he still has his own responsibilities at the business school. He's extremely busy. So I said, I'll handle the workshop this year, and I'll give the students his, your contact information. Okay. And this isn't the only thing I have planned for entrepreneurial thinking. So if you notice in the schedule online, next week what I have planned is a guest speaker. Right? So that guest speaker actually is a good friend of mine. So we went to high school together. But while I went down the engineering path, he went down the business path. So he's an entrepreneur himself. He started a couple companies, and he's successfully sold them off. And now he's actually working on a new company called Mighty Health. I'm actually not exactly sure what he's going to talk about. So, I'm sure he's going to talk about his company, and I told him to talk about his experience as an entrepreneur. So definitely come next week, especially because it'll be a nice change of pace from my own voice. So you'll get to hear somebody else talk about their experience, and and I asked him especially to highlight how engineering played a role in the creation of his companies. Okay, so before we get started with the slides today, are there just any questions about the homework or just anything we covered last week that I can answer before we get started today?
We're good.
Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. So the title of the slides is kind of just, you know, it's learning to think entrepreneurially, but you can kind of think of it as just an introduction to entrepreneurship and what that exactly means and how an engineer can play a role in this process. Okay, and so I think, you know, before we get started, I think, you know, the best place to get started is just with basic definitions. So, you know, I want to ask you guys before you looked at that slide, what do you guys think an entrepreneur does, or what is the role of an entrepreneur in society?
Controlling business, maybe like start up like a company, then like start to build it up to make it bigger.
Yeah, you know, that's an excellent definition. So entrepreneurs, they're definitely, you know, they're definitely business experts, and you know what they definitely like to do is that they like to, you know, start companies and you know, build it up from there. So that's definitely a great definition. Right? So we have one thing from the chat. So another thing is entrepreneurs make connections. That's absolutely true. So entrepreneurs definitely are talking to people, and they connect. You know, a lot of people who are experts in a domain, like an engineer, you know, with other people who might be able to make a successful business. So that's definitely a good one. All right. Anybody else have a definition for entrepreneurs? Innovate. So there's one from the chat says innovates. That's absolutely true. So entrepreneurs definitely, you know, like to innovate, and they like to bring new things to market too. Right? Anything else? All right. So all really great definitions for entrepreneurs. But here's the definition that's, you know, kind of leads into a lot of discussion that we are doing today, and that entrepreneurs look at the world as it is and then ask what it could be. And so there's kind of two parts to this. So there's the first part where entrepreneurs look at the world as it is. Okay? And so what that means is that entrepreneurs are not just, you know, pulling ideas out of their butt and, you know, having them, you know, be super successful. The first part to actually being an entrepreneur is to actually look at the world and see, you know, what are the problems in the world, what are people, you know, what are troubling people, what are things that are you know, causing people pain or causing them inconvenience, right? And then from there, from that point, once they kind of get an understanding of, you know, the world and, you know, maybe a specific sector of, you know, I want to make an impact in, you know, medical devices, right? And then what they do is that, you know, what can this, or how can we improve this, or what can this problem look like if I were to create a product or create a service that can make people's lives easier? Okay? So in order to be an entrepreneur, not only do you need to have a good business sense, but you also need to understand, you know, what are the current conversations taking place before you can actually create something innovative. Okay. Right. And so there's two parts. So, you know, the first part, I think, you know, a lot of people ignore just because it's, you know, most of the times when you look at entrepreneurs, you only really just see the end product of the product that they make, but you don't really see the process in which to get there. And so just to kind of illustrate this, you know, and to say, you know, why do we do it this way? Why do we take so much time to understand, you know, the world as it is? Let's take a situation where someone didn't do this. Okay. So back in 2001, so I know a super long time ago. So there was an inventor named Dean Kamen, and so you know, this was a guy who was actually already extremely successful. So he was already very accomplished. And he's actually already made, you know, millions and millions of dollars inventing medical devices. He said that he was about to release something that's absolutely game-changing. Okay? And it had a ton of hype. So a lot of big-name people actually were behind it. So Steve Jobs actually came out and says that, you know, what Dean is working on is something that could be as big of a deal as the personal computer. Right? And you think about how much PCs are used today, you know, that's huge. So if it's something that's going to make an impact on society as much as the PC, this must be something that's really big. Okay? And John Doerr, which is, you know, he's one of the really big famous venture capitalists, what he said was this invention that Dean Kamen was working on might be even bigger than the internet. So, you know, tons and tons of hype around this thing. Okay? And so when he finally, yeah, Jeff Bezos, I don't think he was big at that time. So this was like very early 2000s, so Y2K stuff like that. Okay? So apparently, Dean Kamen, he'd been working on this for, over a decade and spent actually $100 million of his own money to build it, right? And so in 2001, he actually announced what it was, right? So it was the Segway, right? So it was a personal transport device. So just some of the technical specs on this, it was a device that can go anywhere between 5 to 17 miles per hour and just on a single charge. So it was electrically charged. It can go about 17 miles. So that's a pretty good, pretty good amount, okay? So it cost $8,000 for kind of the industrial ones. And what he expected was that over time, he would be able to get the cost down for consumers down to about $3,000, okay? And so, what Dean Kamen thought was that, it's going to be such an excellent idea and it's going to sell so much. It's going to revolutionize personal transport. So, people are going to be riding these around everywhere, right? And actually, if you remember anything from the early 2000s, I remember seeing a lot of like, futuristic arts or futuristic kind of things where people are kind of riding these around. Okay? And so Dean Kamen thought this was such a great idea that he actually, before he actually went out to the public with it, he actually built up the capabilities to actually manufacture this. So when it was announced, he already had a factory ready to go that could produce 40,000 Segways per month. Okay, and so he was hyping this up a lot. He said this was going to replace the car, basically. That's what he was saying. Okay? And so he had a factory that can build 40,000, and he expected his sales to be $40,000, for the first year. Right? He expected, I have something that can make 40,000 a month, but the first year is going to be a little bit slow as people get into this. So he thinks, for the first year, I'm going to sell 40,000. So he's being relatively modest here. Okay? But what was the reality? So the reality was that, from 2001 to 2007, which was about 5.5 years, he only sold 30,000 of these. Okay? So that's a huge underestimation, right? So he had something that could produce 40,000 a month, but he didn't even sell that much within 5.5 years. So it was a big flop, right? And even just look around right now, right? Like it's you hardly ever see anyone riding a Segway, right? And so this obviously was not successful at all, and so it didn't revolutionize transport the way that Dean Kamen thought it would. Okay? And so the question that that you can ask is, why was this? So why do you guys think that the Segway was not as successful and it wasn't as revolutionary as Dean Kamen thought?
People look pretty lame riding around in them.
I think ultimately that's a big thing. So yeah, it's you don't look too cool riding around in those. I think it didn't help that I think one of the first a lot of the first few customers for the Segway were like mall cops or like people working in factories. So nothing against mall cops, but it's it definitely didn't have a good thing. Yeah, pricing I think was a big one too. So that's a great one. You're paying even the consumer ones, which were $3,000. That's a huge amount of money to pay for something that is ultimately a glorified bike, right? Paul Bart, yeah. Yeah, marketing I think definitely I think it was hyped up so much that it's I don't think it's anything that's going to live up to the amount of hype that say that it's going to replace the car. So that's a really tall order for that, right? Didn't the guy who created the Segway die right? That one I don't know. That would be good to look into, right? All right. So there's actually a great comment in the chat. So one of the big reasons why the Segway wasn't successful was that it didn't fix a problem, right? And so what Dean Kamen thought was that I'm going to create this invention. It's going to be so amazing, so revolutionary. But, this wasn't exactly a problem that people were having, right? People were happy riding their cars places. They're happy with their bikes, their scooters. They're happy with their walking. So what he tried to do was he basically tried to solve a problem that wasn't there, right? Yeah. And so that was, I think that really sums it up really well, was that it was, it didn't really solve a problem that people were having. And so just to give you guys a little bit more details about why it wasn't successful was that, these machines are really bulky. And so actually, a lot of cities actually banned it on the sidewalks because, people walk on the sidewalks. So, if you're walking on the sidewalk and you have one of these coming down and, you kind of have to get out of the way, it's really dangerous, especially if you're going like at the max speed of 17 miles per hour. Right? And because it's so you can't really ride it on the sidewalks in a lot of cities. And so the only place that you could ride it was on the streets. But a lot of people didn't really feel comfortable riding on the streets because there's basically no protection for you at all. So like if a car hits you, you're basically, done so. And so, the people that mostly used it were just warehouse workers and police, and compared that to the general population, that's a very small market. So, trying to solve a problem and trying to do something cool without actually talking to people and seeing what problems could be kind of leads to something like this. Okay. And so just to sum it up, we can say that Dean Kamen basically failed to see the world as it is, basically what problems exist with current transportation methods. And instead what he did was he kind of went underground in his lab and tried to make something cool and revolutionary without really talking to people. And like, I think the segue is such a great case study to see, what could happen if you do something like that. Okay. Yeah, but yeah, that's true. So if you hit a pedestrian with the Segway, you'd be okay, but the lawsuit coming your way would not be so good. Okay, so are there any questions on this so far? Okay. Okay, so a segue is kind of an example of what happens when you don't follow this process. You don't try to understand the world as it is, and you don't try to you don't try to solve the problem. But what are some successful stories? Okay? So let's start with the example of the wheelchair. Okay, so all the examples that I'm going to show you actually were in Times Magazine's list of best inventions in 2018. So these were inventions that were pretty successful. Okay, and so let's talk about the wheelchair first. So wheelchairs, they've been around forever, and for a long time they haven't really changed. They're really bulky devices, and they really struggle to traverse difficult terrains. Okay, and so what this company did was they invented a better wheelchair. So the wheelchair that I've shown you here is the WHILL Model CI wheelchair. And so what's nice about this wheelchair is I can travel up to 10 miles, both indoors and outdoors, and it can traverse actually pretty difficult terrain. So it can actually go up curves. So it can actually climb obstacles that are up to 2 inches in height, and it can easily navigate cramped quarters and be disassembled in minutes. Okay? And so all of those features that I just told you were things that people that have wheelchairs have a lot of difficulty with. So people in wheelchairs, they have difficulty navigating difficult terrain. They have difficulty navigating through cramped quarters, and they would like a device that can be that doesn't take 20-30 minutes to assemble or disassemble, right? And so what this company did was they talked to their target audience. So their target audience was wheelchair users, and they asked them what are the things that bother you the most? What are the things that what are all the inconveniences that you have living life in a wheelchair? And they created a product to address all of these things. Okay, and so in their first year, they were able to sell 10,000 of these units within the first few months, which it's not as much as this, maybe not as much as the Segway, but the market for people in wheelchairs is much smaller than just the general population. So 10,000 was extremely successful. Okay. All right, so the next product is a 3D printer to build a house. So 3D printing is actually becoming a lot more popular. So maybe you guys have already heard of this, right? But the idea with this invention was that it would be able to build a 350 square foot house in 48 hours, right? And so the 3D printer will basically erect the basic structure of the home from concrete, and it does so at a fraction of the cost of traditional methods, because you don't have to pay the staff to be there. It mixes all the concrete for you, and so it's able to basically create a house really quickly, right? And the idea with this 3D printer was that it would be able to solve housing crises, in places where it's normally very difficult to build houses. So a lot of people that live in third world countries, this device would be able to create a lot of cheap houses very quickly at a fraction of the cost for these people, and basically to get people off the street. So again, this is an invention that looked at the world, saw a problem with housing in certain areas, and made a device that was able to address this problem. Okay, and just by a side effect, this is something that's extremely cool, right? And so kind of a good takeaway from this is, if you try to make something cool, then you're going to end up with something like the Segway. But you try to make something useful to people, then you just become cool just by, just as a side effect. Okay? And so the last one I want to talk about is a bicycle helmet. So a bicycle helmet, you might think is, oh, that's, people have already figured out bicycle helmets. But what this bicycle helmet did was they installed LED lights on the bicycle helmet. Right? And what you can do with the lights is that, this helmet also comes with a remote. And so you can actually use the remote to like say, the light will actually turn on to your helmet, say, I'm going to turn left or I'm going to turn right. Which is actually, pretty nice because, one thing that if you've done any biking at night, one thing that you're always scared about is, a car, might not see you and it might hit you, it might hurt you, right? And so what this bike helmet does is it addresses that problem because you have big flashing lights on the back of your head, so it's easy to see. But it also kind of, gives you the same kind of safety features as a car, where it lets you, allows you to signal when you're stopping and allows you to signal when you're turning, right? And so it's something that's, really simple and doesn't really seem like a big invention, but it's something that was, that a lot of people could use because a lot of bikers out there, want something that will keep them safer at night, right? And so this was extremely successful because it actually raised $800,000 on Kickstarter, in its first year, and it was able to be a success from there. Okay? So those are three examples that that went about entrepreneurship kind of in a better way, where they looked at the world and see what issues are out there, and they created problems to solve those issues. Okay? And so before I move on, I want to ask you guys. So do you guys know any other examples of products that solved real problems in creative ways? So it could be something that came out recently or something that came out a while ago, but products that came out and maybe they weren't like reinventing the car or anything like that, but they were able to solve a real problem and solve it in a way that's really creative and really cool. So any examples that you guys can think of, definitely shout them out. Yeah, so one suggestion in the chat was LASIK. So LASIK, has been around for a while, but it really solved the problem for people who need corrective lenses. So a lot of people go through LASIK and we're able to live a much better quality of life because they don't have to wear glasses and they don't have to wear contacts. And it's something that's really creative because if you think about it, LASIK, you're basically shooting laser beams into your eyes, which normally does not sound like something that's fun, but it's, people were able to use that to basically solve a problem that a lot of people were having. So that's a great example, right? So another example that someone said was Wi-Fi versus Ethernet cables. That's a great one. So Wi-Fi, I think, has really changed, the way that we connect our devices to the internet. Because normally, back in the days of dial-up, you had to connect an Ethernet to your router, and then to your computer, and you have to dial it in, right? And you're limited to physically where that Ethernet could be. And so the Wi-Fi really improved the quality of life, where you can, be on the internet on your phone, or on your tablet, on your laptop, without having to be connected. Portable chargers, that's a great one. Nowadays I feel like it's almost a necessary thing. So if you, I mean, no one's going to Disneyland right now, but if you're going out somewhere for the entire day and you want your phone to last the whole day, the portable charger is almost a must, right? So Zoom, absolutely. Just kind of born out of necessity, but the fact that we're having this class now is just a product of Zoom, so that's a great one. Yeah, a lot of great examples. So cell phones, internet, DocuSign, yeah, all these are really great ones. Reddit, that's debatable. I think I spend too much time on Reddit, but but definitely that's a great one too for connecting people. Yeah, so you guys can think of a lot of these great inventions. The reason they're successful is not only the fact that they're cool, but the fact that they actually solve the problem that people were having, right? And so this is the spirit of entrepreneurship. So entrepreneurship is to create a product that not only will be cool, but will actually help people and actually solve problems that people are having, right? Okay, and so I think the next question that to ask is, all of these products that we're talking about, they kind of became their own entity, so they kind of spawned a new company, right? But what if you don't want to start a company? And so, I think what a lot of people, me included, and the fact that I'm here is kind of testament to that, is what if you don't want to create your own company? Because that kind of brings a lot of stress and a lot of work, right? So I think what a lot of people have the goal of is, they want to just kind of work for a company and kind of make a good wage and kind of, have that and just kind of live like that. So that's a great goal. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that at all. this mindset and, you know, the ideas of thinking entrepreneurially can actually add value to you as well. I mean, if you want to work for a company, right? Because if you think about what a lot of companies do, you know, a lot of companies, they can be successful just by kind of making the same product, you know, over and over again. But a lot of companies, what they hope to do is that they hope to, you know, create new products that that can be released under their company, that will be kind of the same thing. So, you know, if you work for a company like Google, or work for something like Amazon, right? Or work for, you know, even the established companies. So I know a lot of you have interest to work in like the aerospace company or the automotive industry, right? So all these big companies, you know, they every now and then they come out with a new product that they hope will, you know, will kind of maybe not revolutionize, but at least, you know, make things easier for people in their space. And so learning to think like an entrepreneur and, you know, having this kind of mindset can even help you out working for a really big company like that as well. And so just some examples, you know, Google, right? So Google just started out as a search engine, but now Google's like everything, right? So now you have, you know, the Android operating system for your phone. You have Google Docs, Google Drive, Google Calendar, Google Sheets, you know, Google Feature Cat, you know, that's probably coming out soon. You know, YouTube. So, you know, Google has released so many different products. And, you know, it wasn't just, you know, the Google, you know, person that did this. It was a team of engineers, you know, thinking entrepreneurially, thinking, you know, what are some services that Google can offer that can actually help people and solve their problems, right? Yeah, Google eavesdropping. Yeah, you know, your smart homes, you know, maybe not the best things, right? And Amazon's kind of the same way, right? So even if you work for a big company, you know, and you work as kind of an engineer for these companies, thinking like an entrepreneur can really help you out for these as well. Because these companies are always looking to innovate. They're always looking to release new products. Okay. Okay. So are there any questions on this before we, the next thing is we're going to do an activity. So any questions on this before we move on to the activity? Okay. So the next thing is we're going to do an activity. So it's called the 3 ideas activity. And it's going to give you guys, you know, practice with this this kind of entrepreneurship process that we talked about. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the breakout rooms in Zoom. And I hope this will go smoother than the first day. But the idea with this is that I'm going to break you guys up into partners so that you'll be in a breakout room with either 2, there might be 3 if things don't work out. But it looks like we have an even number, but someone just left. So now we have an odd number. So there will be, hopefully you'll have at least 1 or 2 other people, okay? And then, so what I want you guys to do is on the Canvas site. So if you go to Canvas and then you go to week 3, you know, you'll see at the bottom there's a document called the 3 ideas activity. Okay, so I have it in 2 forms. So there's a PDF and there's a Word document form. So maybe the Word document form might be more useful because what the 3 activities is going to be is it's going to be a list of questions. Okay, and so what I want you to do is I want you to ask these questions of your partner and fill in their responses. Okay. And then after that, you're going to switch, and then, you know, your partner is going to interview you and ask you the exact same questions. Okay. And so, you know, once you answer those 10 questions, you know, you're going to take those 10 questions and design some products that will help your partner. Okay. It will either, you know, maybe help something that they're, you know, help something that they're annoyed with on a daily life, or, you know, solve kind of a bigger problem that they have. Okay. And so, you know, we're going to spend, you know, maybe like 20 minutes doing this. So, you know, definitely take your time. Okay. And then after you're done, you know, working on those products, you're going to share them ideas with each other. And then you're going to give each other feedback on, you know, what the, how the ideas work. Okay. And so before I break you guys up, you know, I want to say that, you know, when you're coming up with products for your partner, try to be realistic. And so, you know, I'll give you an example. So, you know, one product that I think comes out of this activity a lot is people say that, oh, I'm going to invent a battery that that will never run out for your phone, right? So obviously that would be awesome, but it also violates, I think, at least like 17 fundamental laws of physics. So, you know, keep things, you know, realistic to something that you can actually invent that doesn't, you know, violate all the laws of physics. Okay. Okay, and so I'll give everyone a couple minutes just to download the document. So is everyone able to go to Canvas and go to week 3 and download the 3 ideas activity?
I got it to download for me.
Okay, great. Yeah, so unfortunately, yeah. So normally, when this activity is done in the classroom, you know, I got you guys kind of pick. But with the Zoom breakout rooms, I think it kind of just it does it automatically. So you'll be partnered with someone, with someone random. Um, but you know, hopefully, you know, that'll kind of help kind of break the ice, and you guys will be able to do that. Okay. So are there any questions before I kind of break you guys up?
Professor?
Yep.
How did you say we can access the files you were giving us?
Yeah, so they're on Canvas. So if you go to the Canvas site and then you go to week 3, and so on week 3 at the bottom of that page there should be a file for the 3 ideas activity, and there's a PDF and then there's a Word document form.
All right, thank you.
Yep. All right, so everyone has the document, because I'm going to create 19 rooms, and so it's going to be hard for me to stop into the room. So ask all your questions now, you know, before we break up. So if you look at the screen right now, this is basically kind of the flow chart on how things will go. So you know, you're going to get that PDF or the Word doc. You're going to get the questions, and then you're going to start interviewing your partners. Okay. All right. Any other questions? Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and break you guys up. Hopefully, you know, no one will get paired with my iPad version, but we'll see. Okay. All right. So you guys will have about I'll give you guys about 20-30 minutes to do this, and then we'll come back and we'll kind of debrief that. Okay. And if you have questions, definitely message me. You know, and I'll come to your room. Okay. All right. Good luck, everybody. Hi, Carter. So I think you joined with my iPad one, so I'm going to move someone else into your room so that you can work with them. Okay.
All right.
Let's see. Okay, so I'm moving someone into your room. All right. Hi, Jose. So I moved you into this room because Carter got paired with my iPad. So
Okay.
yeah.
That's
so I want you guys work on it. Okay.
Yeah.
You guys,
Hey,
are you guys asking for help? What's up?
I asked for help. So for our 3 ideas, are we like creating ideas to solve? Are we like creating an item, a product, or like? Are we
It could be anything. So anything that you think, it could be like an app. It could be like a physical product. Anything that you think will be of interest to your partner and will help solve one of their issues.
Well, we don't have to invent it.
No. These are
Okay.
just. I mean, try to keep it realistic. Don't make it too unrealistic. But yeah, you're not actually going to be making this. So this is kind of just for fun.
Right.
Okay.
I think what he means, like, is it like never mind. Sorry.
Yeah, I mean it's just an idea. I mean it's try to keep it realistic, but you're not actually going to be making this this product. It's just some ideas that you would have that you think would help your partner.
Okay, but it is a product.
It is a product, yes.
Oh, okay. All right, thanks.
Yep. All right. Welcome back, everyone. How was the activity for everybody?
I think
Interesting.
Didn't quite
Yeah.
finish, but we're
It
close.
was cool. It was really deep. The questions were really
Super deep.
Yeah.
That's good. That's good. All right. Let's debrief a little bit. So, you know, I did cut it a little bit short because there was you know, I'm noticing we only have 25 minutes left, and there's still some information I want to go over, and I want to make sure we have time to debrief too. Yeah, it's hard. It's definitely, you know, not an easy activity. So, you know, first thing I want to ask is, you know, out of the 3 ideas that your partners gave you, was there at least one that you felt that you were passionately interested in?
honestly, we didn't get to the ideas yet.
Oh, okay. Oh, sorry about that. Yeah, maybe it's hard. It's a little bit hard for me to tell just because it's yeah, I'm not poking into your guys' sessions. But for those of you guys who did finish and had an idea that you were passionately interested, would anyone like to share an idea that their partner created for them?
Yeah, I got one.
All right, shoot.
I think this might be a thing already, but
That's okay.
all right. So my idea was an application that lets you explore different hobbies, and then you can connect with those that share that same hobby in person or online.
Yeah, that's awesome because I think nowadays there's definitely a lot of you know, people are you know, are into a lot of kind of really niche ideas or niche hobbies, and I think you're right. I think there's a service called a Meetup that's something similar to this. So I remember I was talking to a friend who's really into rock climbing, and she actually, you know, met a bunch of people through that Meetup app that, you know, were able to meet up in her area at a rock climbing gym, and you know, she's still friends with a lot of those people that she met with Meetup. So that's an excellent idea. Anyone else come up with an idea that that they were you know, or had their partner come up with an idea that they felt really passionate about?
Yeah, I got one.
Yeah, I'll talk.
Okay.
Oh, you can go ahead, Jonathan. You're good.
All right, real quick. I mean, I'm like super into Tesla. My partner recommended just a fully integrated Tesla home. You know, they just build everything. Give me the SpaceX Wi-Fi. Give me batteries. Give me, and they already have like that with batteries and solar. But like, you know, just do the rest of the house. I just want Tesla everything.
Nice, nice. Yeah, so you love Tesla, so I mean, having a Tesla, you know, everything for your house, I think would be cool. Yeah. Blake, you had another thing that you want to share?
Yeah, so we were thinking about expanding on 3D printers and basically enlarging it to construction and making like houses, 1 cooler, 3 or 2 like you finish them in a quicker time span.
Yeah, that's definitely really awesome right there too. Yep, 3D printing I think is going to come a long way. I think it's definitely one of those technologies I think will be really cool in the future. There's a lot of Tesla things that are coming into the chat right now. But yeah, this is great. So hopefully, you know, I wish we had a little bit more time, but you know, we got to move on. So one other question that I want to ask you guys is, you know, out of the questions that you were asked to ask your partner, which ones were the most useful for you and helping you create an idea for them?
I have something that
Sure.
I came up with.
Oh yeah, sure. Go for it.
So it's one of the big problems that me and my partner had is like how much money we have now and the experience that we have, like in terms of our learning when we were younger and now. Mm-hmm. So to kind of combine both, if colleges created services for the school, for the students, so because we have tutoring for college students on campus during the semesters, but we should provide the services. They should pay the students to go to elementary schools or middle schools or high schools and to try and get kids more invigorated and thinking about their education when they're younger to get them started quicker.
Yeah, no, I think that's awesome. I think you know, any kind of educational outreach, I think was you know, it always makes a really big impact. I remember, one thing my high school did too was they brought back kind of former kind of alumni after they either went to college or they had careers, and they kind of talked about their experiences. So, definitely that's really motivating to see that, someone from your community that can go out there and, and have all this success and, have all these great experiences is something that's great. And I think, like you said, by getting students more invigorated in their education is always going to be a big plus. Yeah, definitely. All right. Is there anything else you guys want to debrief about this activity before we move on?
You asked for the most useful question in there, the one that got you thinking about the most products. I think the last question, the one that asked, how would you better people's lives? Mm-hmm. It got me thinking the most about a practical product.
Yeah, I think that's definitely one of the most influential questions on there. So, when you start to think of things from the lens of, what is something that I can make that can, better people's lives, I think that really gets you into like a good mindset and really kind of drives your design for things. Not only for, this activity, of course, but for, whether you're working for a company or you're making your own, making your own product for your company. So yeah, definitely. I think that's definitely one of the best questions on there too. Yeah. So I'm seeing a lot of feedback in the chat. So yeah, definitely, this activity was fun. This is in person it's a lot of fun too, because there's a lot of chatter and you can kind of overhear what other people are saying too, and that kind of gives you some ideas. And I think that's part of the process too, is not only coming up with something just by yourself, but also kind of getting inspiration from other people as well. So unfortunately, with the virtual instruction, that's not possible. But definitely, don't be just limited to this too. So if this is something that was really interesting to you and really fun, definitely you can that 3 ideas handout is yours to keep. So that's something you can definitely keep for the future. Okay? But hopefully you guys enjoyed that. That was an activity that, again, I didn't make this. This was something that was provided to me by the business school. But, they do this in a lot of their entrepreneurship classes as well. So it's definitely a very time-tested activity. Okay. And so, what I hope you guys got from this activity was that, entrepreneurs are not just people that just innovate just out of, nothing, right? They don't just make a segue and hope that it's, people will buy it. Entrepreneurs at their core, they solve problems. And I think this is very similar to, engineers, because, engineers, I think, they kind of have a similar mindset where I think, entrepreneurs and engineers, they go about it in different ways. But, I think you guys, both of us are ultimately want the same thing, where, we want to create solutions to people's problems and, move society and move people forward, in a positive way. Okay. And always the first step to solving problems is to understand what the problems are. Right. And so, when you talk to people, when you get feedback from people, and you learn what are things that are bothering them, that information is very valuable to you in order to create solutions and in order to create products that will solve these people's problems. Okay? And so I just want to take a brief comment on those interview questions that you were provided. Those are extremely general. So a lot of times in practice you kind of already know the space that you want to be in and the audience that you want to work with. So in reality, when you actually go about developing a product for your specific audience, you're going to ask some more specific questions. So like, say that you're Google, right? So, you might ask questions about, how do you go about searching for information online? What are ways that a search engine can help you? What do you expect out of a search engine, right? And so those are things that, will help you guys with those things. So, if you're making a specific product, then ask more specific questions, because that's going to be, ultimately more useful for you. Okay. And so, now that we've kind of gotten an idea and we've done an activity to get the sense of what entrepreneurship is, you might be wondering, how can I continue this? How can I be more proficient at entrepreneurial thinking, right? And so I have, there's 4 tips for you guys. So the first tip is to, the way they call it, keep your finger on the pulse. And so another way to say this is to kind of just be aware of kind of what's going on in the world, right? And so, you can read, you can listen, and you can follow. So you can read things like industry-specific, periodicals. business and entrepreneurship, magazines, articles, stuff like that. So reading what's going on in the world, and reading what people are working on inventing, that will help you, keep this kind of mindset in life. Okay? So you can listen. So there's a lot of podcasts that are going on right now. So you can listen to podcasts that talk about industry specific trends. What are things people are getting into, right? And so I have the word influencer here. So I think when people think of influencers, they think of Instagram influencers. But what I mean by influencers here is people who are influential within your own domain. So there's like you might think of like a Jeff Bezos or something like that. That might be really influential in like the tech world, right? A lot of people like that. So not necessarily people that make nice pictures on Instagram, but people whose opinions and whose decisions will affect the general field. And just like that, you can also follow these kinds of people on social media, or follow what they say, their blogs, and just to kind of know what are some of the things that they're thinking about, what are the problems that they're thinking about solving, and kind of use that kind of ideas to kind of maybe think of products yourself. Okay, so the second tip is, if you already have, customers, or you have an audience, is to pay attention to what your customers are saying and how they're using your product or your service, right? And so the first thing that you can do to do this is you can just talk to them directly, which is kind of what you guys just did now. And so interviews directly with your client or with your customers, that's always kind of the best ways to get information, right? So you can ask questions like, what are people loving? What are they complaining about? Are they using your product or the product in ways that you didn't expect? Okay. Another thing, you can just watch them using your product, right? And so actually a lot of companies use that tactic. So what companies will do is that, just to see how people are using their product, they will just kind of observe them either using their software or using their device or something like that. And if they use it in kind of ways that they don't expect, then they can use that as feedback to kind of refine what they do. Okay? And so, another thing that you can do, especially in today's digital world, is you can read what people are saying online. So, the nice thing about the good and bad thing about today's world is that people have I call it keyboard courage. So people are much more likely to be very honest and brutal on the internet, especially when you don't have to put your face behind it. So you can read that feedback, take it with a grain of salt, of course. If you ever read angry Yelp reviews, you know that people can embellish a little bit. So take things with a grain of salt, and read what people are saying online, and use that information to maybe either improve a product that's already out there, or to come up with something yourself that can help those kind of people. And so some forums for this would be like Reddit. It could be like Yelp, Twitter, any online forum where people kind of expressing their opinions on certain products. You can definitely use that as information. Okay, and so here's some more tips on if you're going to interview a customer, right? And so the big thing is, when you're interviewing customers, is to always ask open-ended questions. Okay, and so you don't want to ask questions where it can be answered with just a simple yes or no. Because if you're going to go through the trouble to contact someone and set up either a Zoom call or to meet them in person, you want to get kind of the most valuable information out of that as possible. Okay? And so if you ask things that are just simple yes or no, I mean, that's useful, but it's not going to be ultimately really, really useful for you to make the product. So to have them explain things and have them kind of walk through their thinking, and kind of where you can really analyze, things, either things that they are, having problems with, or things that they are loving. Asking those open-ended questions will really help you out to really get at the core of what they're thinking, and really to dig deeper. Okay. And so other things that you can do is you can ask questions about understand how they use the product. So you can ask questions like walk me through the process of how you search for something on the internet, or how do you feed your cat, or where do you go to get a haircut and stuff like that. Okay. When was the last time that you did something? Okay? So these are the kinds of questions that get you to understand how they use a product, and you can use that to see, is there a better way that you can go about doing this? Okay? And number two, you can ask just directly, what are the problems that they face? And so you can ask them, what did you like about this experience? What was frustrating about the experience? Or if you can wave a magic wand and solve any problem, what would you like to solve? Okay? And so third, you can ask, ask how they're currently solving these problems, right? And so people will always, have things that they're dealing with on every day, and, they come up with things to kind of deal with them. Right? And so you can ask things about, have you ever thought about changing to another product? Why or why not? And, how are you dealing with this? Like, how are you washing your dishes every day? Right? Things like that can, help you get information on how to, improve people's lives and make things more convenient for them. And asking these kind of open-ended questions will really help with that. Okay. And so tip number 3 is, once you have that information, you've followed the information online and you talk to your customers, is to create simple prototypes. Okay? So, it's one thing to basically, do kind of an activity that we did just now and kind of talk about something you would invent. It's another thing to have actually something in front of you that you can actually touch, that you can actually interact with, and to see how you would like that. Okay? And so, part of the entrepreneurship process is to actually create these simple prototypes, just so people get an idea for what you want to create. Okay? And so the idea with these prototypes is to, create something that your customer can interact with. So it could be like a website, it could be like a simple app. So a term that they use in the industry quite a lot is a wireframe. And so a wireframe is not a complete app, but at least has kind of the bones of, like, the menus and, the basic functionality. Okay? You can create a PowerPoint to kind of show off what you are doing. You can create a teaser video, so you can create a short video that kind of shows, what you would want to do. You can create a brochure, you can create a flyer, photos, renderings, or you can take an existing object and make modifications of it. Okay? And so the idea is to get something in front of your customers, or to get something in front of your clients that they can really interact with, and they can really give you feedback on. Okay? And so the idea, I'll say this too about prototypes. And so the idea is to create a finished product, right? And so the idea with prototypes is to create something, really quick, really dirty, just with the intent of getting something in front of your customers. Okay? So it doesn't have to be something that's complete. And so I think what tends to happen a lot for entrepreneurs is that they spend so much time creating a prototype and making sure that it's absolutely perfect. You kind of polish it, you get all the bells and whistles on it. Okay? So you spend so much time, like maybe weeks or months creating this prototype, and then you get in front of customers, and then they say that they hate it, and then now all that time is wasted. Okay? And so you shouldn't be spending that much time on a prototype, because it's just a prototype. Okay? And so the idea is to get kind of the essence of what your product is, and kind of the main idea, and to kind of communicate that in something simple that your customers can interact with, get their feedback, and then go and work on it. Okay? And so the prototype's not the finished product. It's just something that something just to give your customers an idea beyond what you can just tell them in words. Okay. And so once you have that product in front of them, the next step is to get feedback from your customers. Okay, so you can ask questions on like a Reddit forum, or or email them a survey directly. Okay, and so the idea is to get feedback, and this part is extremely important, because yes, you've already done the steps of like talking to your customers and trying to understand their problems, but you can't just take that information and create a product and expect it to be successful. So, entrepreneurship, as my friend will tell you next week, it's always an iterative process. So it's always a process of, talking to your customers, creating something, getting their feedback, modifying it, getting feedback. So, it goes through a lot of stages of you, getting feedback from your customers. Okay? And that feedback is extremely important, because without that feedback, it's really hard to create something that they're really going to like. And so just an example, for this class, every week that I ask you guys to fill out that minute paper, and the last question on that is just any feedback that you guys have from the class. And so designing this class is not, of course, not the same as designing a product as an entrepreneur, but there's a lot of similar processes where if I want to make this class kind of the best that it can be, yes, I can kind of go into my apartment and kind of do the course design and kind of plan out the entire semester, and kind of just deliver it as I planned it. So that's one way that I can do it, right? That's probably not going to be the most successful. But another way that that I like to go about this is to collect feedback from you guys as we go through the semester, and to take that feedback and to use that information to improve this class, right? And so I kind of see this class like every week is kind of like a new opportunity to improve the class, right? So, you know, every week what I do is I read your feedback from the papers, take that information, improve the class, you know, and by the end of the class, you know, we're going to have something, and you're going to have an experience that, you know, might not have been exactly what I had planned from the beginning, but ultimately it's going to be something that, you know, you guys are going to get the most out of, and you guys are going to enjoy a lot. Okay? And so just some quick tips on how to get feedback. You know, again, use the internet. So, you know, create a Reddit post, or, you know, go to where your customers are, talk to them, right? And get as much feedback as you can. Okay? You can create surveys. Surveys are another great tool for this as well. Okay. So those are the 4 tips. So, you know, we're coming to the close for our lecture on entrepreneurship. And so, you know, the next question is, you know, what are the next steps, right? So how can you explore and practice more entrepreneurship thinking, right? And so this first tip right here for, you know, guest talks and office hours, you know, obviously that's more difficult to do in the pandemic. But, you know, once we come back to campus, you know, this is something that you can do. So, you know, next week we'll have a guest lecture, so you can definitely talk to him. He's, you know, an actual entrepreneur. I'm kind of just a, how do you say, like a messenger, right? So I've never created my own company, but, you know, this is all information that's kind of been shared to me. So, you know, my perspective is obviously going to be really different from his. So his name is James. And so, you know, definitely, you know, talk to him, pick his brain. You know, I told him that, you know, to expect a lot of questions from you guys. So definitely ask him the process and, you know, everything that he went through, says, you know, he's actually gone through it. So talking to people who have gone through it is, you know, always going to be helpful. Okay? So there's other programs that are called incubators. And so the idea with these incubators are these are kind of programs that bigger companies do to basically kind of help entrepreneurs to get their companies off the ground or get ideas off the ground. So a lot of times they'll provide financial help. Sometimes they'll provide like a physical office space. So these are things that, you know, James has actually participated in some of these too, so you can ask him about that. So he actually lives up in San Francisco, and he was part of an incubator program in the city over there. Okay? And Cal State Fullerton, you know, we have a really big business school here. There was some drama with the name for the business school, but I didn't really read that email all too much. But, you know, the business school here, they host a lot of entrepreneurship events too. So things like, you know, an elevator pitch event, or like, you know, developing new product events. So you can click this, you can go to this link right here, this, you know, CSUF entrepreneurship events, and be kind of aware of that. I'm not sure what they're up to now in the pandemic, but I'm sure they still have some events going on. Okay? And so another option is you can take a course in entrepreneurship. And so there are these 2 management courses. So management 465A and 465B. Okay. And so if you're interested in pursuing entrepreneurship, you can take these courses. And these courses have been approved by Dean Barua to actually give you technical elective credit. And so taking these courses will, you know, not only help you further entrepreneurship, but it will actually give you credit towards your engineering degree. So, you know, definitely check these out if this is something you're interested in. Okay? Another thing is to think about entrepreneurship in your design classes. So I know a lot of you guys are in senior design, and so, you know, a lot of what we cover today will definitely be helpful for you in, you know, developing your product for senior design. Okay? And so you can get feedback from your professors, from your mentors, or, you know, or your prospective customers. Okay? And the last thing is you can talk to actually our ECS entrepreneurship and entrepreneur in residence. And so his name is Dr. Atul Tekchandani. So he was the one that's responsible for this activity and all the slides today. And so if you're interested in, you know, learning more about, you know, entrepreneurship, you can shoot him an email, and, you know, he's always happy to talk to you again. Okay. Okay. And with that, that is the end of the lecture. So that's all I got for today. But, you know, definitely tune in, definitely come in next Tuesday and hear the guest talk from my friend James. And he'll be able to give you a much better perspective on entrepreneurship. Okay. Okay, so that's it for the class for today. So thank you guys for tuning in, and thank you everyone for participating in the activity. And we'll pick it up on Thursday with more engineering economics. Okay. All right. So thank you everybody. So have a great day. There's office hours after this, so make sure to stop by. And then I'll see you guys on Thursday.